provide you with the lowest per GB rates, night or day. SLT 4G, driving you ever forward.
Monetary provisions. The Cabinet approves a proposal to present a vote on account. The UNP, however, is sceptical of it being passed in Parliament. Long last. Chief of Defence Staff Admiral Ravindra Vijayagunaratne remanded. Deep roots. What's behind Sri Lanka's political crisis?
What happened on October 26th is a manifestation of these crises.
Easy target. China rejects becoming a supplier of political instability in Sri Lanka. Lion Air crash. Indonesian investigators probing the crash, which killed 189 people, deemed the aircraft was not airworthy.
බයික් එකක් ගත්තොත් ෆෝන් එකක්. ඔව් තෝරාගත් Yamaha බයික් මාදිලි සඳහා රුපියල් 40000ක් දක්වා වටිනා ස්මාර්ට් ෆෝන් එකක් නොමිලේ. ඉක්මන් කරන්න නොවැම්බර් 30 දක්වා පමණයි. කොන්දේසි සහිතයි. අමතන්න 0117 AMW තින් පමණයි.
Good evening. This is First at 9 on Other Derana 24/7 Sri Lanka's news channel. I'm Indivri Amwatha. We begin with your top stories tonight. The report of the Special Presidential Commission to review public sector salaries was handed over to President Maithripala Sirisena today. The official ceremony was held at the Presidential Secretariat.
Chairman of the Commission, S. Ranuge, presented the report of the Special Presidential Commission appointed to review public sector salaries to President Maithripala Sirisena today. The President appointed the Special Commission to make recommendations towards providing solutions to minimise salary anomalies in the public service, while focusing on existing salary circulars in relation to the salaries and allowances of the public service employees. Meanwhile, the inaugural session of the Information Technology Exhibition to mark the 75th anniversary of Sri Lanka Signal Corps of the Army kicked off under the patronage of President Maithripala Sirisena today. The ceremony took place at the BMICH in Colombo. The exhibition is part of the international conference that is being held under the theme Eternal Army Front in Cyberspace. International delegates from England, Russia, China, India, Pakistan and Bangladesh are also participating in the conference. Army Commander Lieutenant General Mahesh Senanayake awarded a special token of appreciation to the President at the ceremony today. In the meantime, yesterday, the President instructed authorities on the implementation of a speedy procedure with stringent rules to control crime, drug smuggling and underworld activities. During a special meeting held at the Presidential Secretariat, the head of state also stressed the need to vest necessary powers on the relevant authorities by expediting essential legal reforms in this regard. He also emphasized that amendments must be made to the bills related to controlling drugs, crime and the minimization of road accidents.
Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa has instructed relevant officials to resolve issues faced by the fishing community, including high import taxes. The Premier's move comes following a meeting with representatives of fisheries organisations.
A meeting was held between Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa and a group of representatives from fisheries organisations at the Prime Minister's office yesterday. The discussion, in which Subject Minister Vijit Vijaymunisoisa also participated, was focused on addressing and finding solutions for issues faced by the fishing community. During the talks, the Prime Minister has highlighted the need to reduce import tax on raw material used by the local fishing community to manufacture their vessels. Various problems were brought up, especially regarding the taxes and tax concessions. I would like to tell you that we will give concessions on every aspect as much as possible.
The Colombo Fort Magistrates Court today remanded Chief of Defence Staff Admiral Ravindra Vijayagunaratne until the 5th of December. He appeared before court today pertaining to allegations of providing protection to Lieutenant Commander Chandana Prasad Hettiarachchi, the chief suspect in the case pertaining to the abduction of 11 youth in 2008 and 2009.
Chief of Defence Staff Admiral Ravindra Vijayagunaratne is accused of providing protection to Lieutenant Commander Chandana Prasad Hettiarachchi, who is in remand custody over the alleged abduction of 11 youth during the period of 2008 and 2009. The Criminal Investigation Department first summoned Admiral Vijay Gunaratne last September. However, he informed the CID that he could not appear since he had to leave for Mexico on official duty. Although he was summoned before CID yesterday once more, it was only today that he arrived at the Colombo Fort Magistrates Court. He arrived at the court in his uniform, although his attorneys advised him to be clad in civil attire. In the meantime, while Admiral Vijay Gunaratne was leaving the premises, a person in civilian attire who accompanied him attempted to obstruct a photojournalist of the Sunday morning newspaper, Uppulindika. Police, however, arrested the person in question immediately, who turned out to be a low-ranking member of the Navy. Meanwhile, the case pertaining to the abduction of 11 youth during 2008 and 2009 was taken up in the afternoon, and Admiral Vijay Gunaratne appeared before court once more. Fort Magistrate Ranga Disanayake said that investigations pertaining to the incident could be disturbed if the suspect is granted bail, and the reason the CID could not arrest him on 2 previous occasions was due to various influences. The court then ordered police to launch investigations on the complaint that Admiral Vijay Gunaratne threatened Lieutenant Commander Galagamage Laksiri on the 26th at the Navy headquarters. Lieutenant Commander Laksiri is a prominent witness in the youth abduction case. Accordingly, Colombo Fort Magistrate Ranga Disanayake ordered to remand Admiral Ravindra Vijay Gunaratne until the 5th of December and allowed CID to record statements from the suspect. He also informed the prison superintendent to consider providing special security for the suspect.
The Cabinet of Ministers approved a proposal to represent or present a vote on account in order to secure monetary provisions for the first quarter of next year. It comes in a backdrop where questions are being asked as to what will happen if the budget is not passed for the next year. The proposal was presented by Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa in his capacity as the Minister of Finance and Economic Affairs for an expenditure of 1.74 trillion rupees.
In its weekly meeting yesterday, the Cabinet of Ministers approved the proposal tabled by Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa in his capacity as the Minister of Finance and Economic Affairs of a vote on account to the tune of 1,735 billion rupees. Accordingly, 760 billion rupees is set to be used to continue the process of government public services, 970 billion rupees for the expenditures previously authorized by different laws, and 5 billion rupees for the government advance account. The Cabinet also approved the proposal to appoint a committee comprising of experts in the government and private sector with sufficient qualifications to prepare a national market policy for Sri Lanka. Meanwhile, the proposal to implement the procurement process in accordance with the policy framework to construct 60 megawatt wind power plants and 150 megawatt solar power plants, which should be connected to the power system by 2020, was also given the Cabinet's nod. The power plants are conducted under the 2018-2037 Long-Term Generation Expansion Plan initiated by the Electricity Board. Meanwhile, in order to set up a transparent and simple wide-based tax management system with less tax ratio to promote local enterprises such as small and medium-scale enterprise sector, professional and other services and agriculture activities, the Cabinet also approved several actions to be taken immediately. Proposal by Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa in his capacity as the Minister of Finance includes exemptions of entrepreneurs, especially small-scale entrepreneurs gaining income from any agriculture earnings such as tea, spices, coconut, rubber, paddy, fruit and vegetables for a period of 5 years. Action to be taken also include the reduction of the tax ratio on profits gained from locally processed agricultural products from 28% to 14%. Meanwhile, it says steps must be taken to reduce the price of some goods and fuel in order to reduce the cost of living of low-income families while taking necessary measures to reduce the price of the other essential goods. Following the decisions by the Cabinet of Ministers, Cabinet co-spokespersons then responded to questions raised by journalists at the media briefing today. We strongly reject the statements which claim that the appointment of the Prime Minister and the government are illegal. We won't have any problem accepting if the Supreme Court says otherwise. The President has the right to call for a vote of account, which would last until the end of March. Even if the Supreme Court says that the President doesn't hold such power, We would still have to present a vote of account by 1st of January to cover all the expenses, but then we don't think any such problem would arise.
අපි හිතන්නේ එහෙම ප්‍රශ්නයක් ඇති වෙයි කියලා.
හෙට තියෙනවා ෆයිනෑන්ස් බිල් එක අර മന്ത്രിවරු 6 දෙනෙක් UNF එකේ ඒකට කොහොමද ඔබතුමාලා මුහුණ දෙන්නේ?
We haven't decided yet. We will decide on a course of action after the parliamentary group meeting tomorrow. There are several arguments. As per the 36th standing order, we can't talk about an ongoing issue taken up at the court in Parliament. So we can't debate President's powers within the Parliament. We have to do it in the Supreme Court. So there is an argument that it is wrong to present the no confidence motion at the Parliament like this. We will anyway discuss and come to a decision on this at the meeting tomorrow.
සාකච්ඡා කරලා ඉතින් පස්සේ තමයි තීන්දුවක් ගන්න බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන්නේ.
I am talking about the situation right now. 122
On one issue.
Yes.
The issue is against the present Prime Minister and the Cabinet of Ministers.
Exactly, yes.
They have 121, they say.
The Parliament has clearly divided on two groups. On one
No,
side,
you can't say
have
that. I challenge
122.
that. You can't say that. You can't say two groups
They
because
say that.
on this particular issue there is a group. You can't say that they are going to group together on every issue.
Correct.
කතානායකවරයා ඇයි ඔබතුමාලා ආණ්ඩු පක්ෂ විදිහට එතුමාට විශ්වාස භංගයක් ගෙනල්ලා අයින් කරන්නේ නැත්තේ?
නෑ ඉතින් එතුමා වැඩ කරන
We won't, because he is working on the agreement of 122 parliamentarians. He will of course be protected by them during a no-confidence motion, and in turn he will protect them.
ඒගොල්ලන්ව රකින්න.
ඔබතුමාලට බහුතරේ
නෑ බහුතරේ නැති එක
This is nothing to do with not having a majority. The Hansard shows that they called Kiriella the leader of the House yesterday. We can't imagine as to how it is possible that the leader of the House, opposition leader and chief opposition whip all be from the left side. This is no way to continue with the government.
එහෙම ආණ්ඩුව ගෙනියන්නේ නෑනේ.
පාර්ලිමේන්තුව ඇතුලේ මේ පාර්ලිමේන්තු මන්ත්‍රීවරුන් හැසිරිච්ච විදියත් එක්ක ඔවුන්ට පොදු දේපල පනත යටතේ ඔවුන්ට දඬුවම් කරන්න බැද්ද?
පළවෙනි එක තියෙන්නේ
The parliament is protected under parliamentary privileges. We can't take any action because the speaker won't appoint a parliament privileges committee. So nothing can be done even if anyone brings knives and bombs into parliament. Same goes for anything that gets damaged within the house.
කරන බින්දන සියල්ලට.
Meanwhile, UNP parliamentarian Ravi Karunanayake challenges the governing party to pass the vote on account in Parliament, which was approved by the Cabinet of Ministers yesterday. Karunanayake expressed these views at a media briefing held at the Temple Trees today.
The Cabinet of Ministers of this fake government approved to present a vote on account yesterday. First of all, a government which doesn't command the majority and trust cannot have a Cabinet of Ministers. We asked this so-called government to first prove their majority in Parliament. We are going to present the proposal on cutting off all expenditure of the Prime Minister. We will then give you time to show us how you're going to pass this vote on account. We will prove our majority of around 130 members tomorrow. So, we are asking them to show the support of at least 85 to 90 parliamentarians.
අපි ඒ අයට පුළුවන් නම් පෙන්වන්න 85ක් 90ක් ඉන්නවා කියලා පෙන්වන්න කියලා.
UPFA parliamentarian Kanaka Herath highlights the Supreme Court ruling on the dissolution of Parliament, set to be delivered on the 7th of next month, as the defining factor in the question whether to stay in the government or not. The parliamentarian gave his take on the matter while addressing a media briefing held at the Prime Minister's office this morning.
We have the need to show the majority in the future. After the Supreme Court ruling on the 7th, we will decide whether to remain in the government or not. We don't have the need to attend the Sirikota meeting taking place inside the House of Parliament. We are ready to attend a parliamentary session like before. How can they prove that? Did they even manage to hand over affidavits demanding Ranil Wickremesinghe be the Prime Minister?
Leader of the United National Party parliamentarian Ranil Wickremesinghe elaborated on the party's plans to register a new political coalition, which he says will work towards protecting democracy in the country. Leader of the UNP expressed these views at an event held at the Temple Trees today.
The United National Party's convention of local government was held at the Temple Trees today. We should form that brave public force which wouldn't even be scared to surround properties of the president. We will resolve this problem either by being good or bad. Gather in Colombo for your final battle. Let's march in the front and let's get beaten up, killed, or even gassed up if we have to. Let's send them all home and make this Prime Minister sit in his designated chair.
පාර්ලිමේන්තුවේ බහුතරය සහයෝගය
I emphasize that we command the majority in Parliament. We are not at all scared to go for an election because we worked as per the public mandate. We're working on registering a coalition. UNF gathered not as an official political party, and that is why we are forming this new coalition. We will work as a political mechanism which will protect democracy in the country.
දේශපාලන යන්ත්‍රයක් හැටියට අපි පියවර ගන්නවා කියලා මං කියන්න කැමතියි.
Minister of Megapolis and Western Development highlights the importance of policymakers and researchers being involved in the challenge of successfully implementing rainwater harvesting. Addressing the International Conference on Water Security through Rainwater Harvesting held in Colombo today, the minister went on to reveal that the Colombo Port City project has completely ignored the concept.
The International Conference on Water Security through Rainwater Harvesting was held in Colombo today with the participation of representatives from India, Nepal, Bangladesh, United Kingdom and Australia.
Depletion of our resources, acceleration of our growth. How can we achieve a balanced state that we could face? I would like also to mention certain mandatory requirements may be enforced by institutions. In Sri Lanka, on the initiation of the rainwater harvesting forum, we initiated a national policy and a mandatory regulations on buildings, larger buildings that were coming up. Mandatory requirements are not being obliged and followed. Mandatory requirements, if not followed, the crisis will accelerate. Secondly, we wanted to impose by discussion, by agreement. We reached agreement on all big construction complexes from hotels to offices that certain percentage has to be recycled, not for drinking, for the purpose, not implemented or difficult to be implemented in simple language. Today we have, I must say, one of the largest projects in Sri Lanka, the port city development. Completely, in my few days as minister, I found completely ignores rainwater collection. Policymakers, donors, researchers all need to rise to the urban services challenge that we are discussing.
The civil organization Democratic Solidarity labels the prevailing political situation in the country as a manifestation of various crises which pre-existed the 26th of October before the president appointed a new government along with a new prime minister. Speaking at a media briefing today, senior journalist Mohan Samaranayaka highlighted elections as the best way to end political uncertainty and establish good governance in the country.
The prevailing political uncertainty caused by the president's decision taken on 26th October, as I see, is a consequence or a result of a deep political, economic, social and cultural crisis that our country is confronting with. What happened on October 26th is a manifestation of these crises. In order to overcome this crisis, my and our opinion is that people should be given the opportunity to select a government of their own choice. Some sections of the society or this conflict want to brand the current situation as a conspiracy against democracy and a violation of constitution. But they fail to see that there is no real democracy in any country of the world, even in the most developed country, the richest country in the world, which is the United States, there is no such democracy. That society is controlled by 1% of the population, which represent the super rich. That same situation prevails in our own country. What I suggest is that in order to create a strong national economy, fair income distribution system, and good governance, we need to create a society where people have the say in the final analysis. In order to achieve this aim, we must go for a fresh general election to choose our own representatives.
You are watching Sri Lanka's award-winning news channel, Derana 24/7.
Welcome back. The Chinese embassy in the UK has moved to reject an editorial which was published by a Sri Lankan media outlet recently, directing a letter to the media outlet as a response to its write-up titled "Sri Lanka Turmoil Points to China's Increasing Role." Spokesperson of the Chinese embassy in the UK, Zheng Rong, said that he cannot agree with comments that China is becoming a supplier of political instability and sets a debt trap for Sri Lanka and other countries. He stressed that China and Sri Lanka have long been friendly neighbours and the cooperation between the two countries is a win-win and mutually beneficial, with Chinese companies completing more than $15 billion worth of infrastructure projects in Sri Lanka in transportation, water, electricity, ports and other fields, giving a strong boost to its economic development by the end of year 2017. It was also highlighted in the letter that under the construction Colombo Port City project and the Hambantota Port and Industrial Zone are to become new powerful engines for Sri Lanka's economic takeoff. Rong went on to say that China-Sri Lanka cooperation has created more than 100,000 jobs for Sri Lanka and trained tens of thousands of technical and management personnel. Touching on Sri Lanka's debt, which has been a hotly debated topic, Rong insists that by 2017, China's loans to Sri Lanka accounted for only about 10% in Sri Lanka's foreign debts, while Japan accounts for 12% and the Asian Development Bank 14%. Based on the figures, spokesperson of the Chinese embassy in the UK said it is not tenable to claim that China's loans are causing problems for Sri Lanka. And Tanzania's President John Magufuli has said he prefers Chinese to Western aid as it comes with fewer conditions. Magufuli has been under intense pressure from the Western nations over his controversial policies. On the 15th of November, Denmark said it had suspended $9.8 million in aid because of unacceptable homophobic comments by a Tanzanian politician. China has become a major investor in Africa, challenging Western influence on the continent. It has promised to spend $60 billion in investment aid and loans in Africa over the next 3 years, mostly in infrastructure development. The European Union is currently the East African state's biggest development partner, giving aid of more than $88 million annually. The EU announced earlier this month that it was reviewing its policy towards Tanzania because of concerns about the rights of gay people and restrictions on civil society groups. And oil prices rose further above $60 a barrel today, supported by expectations that OPEC nations and its partners will next week decide to curb supply, helped by a drop in North Sea output. The Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries, plus Russia and other allies, meet on the 6th and 7th of December. OPEC delegates say that producers are discussing a supply curb of 1 to 14 million barrels per day and possibly more. Brent crude, the global benchmark, was up 53 cents at $60.74 a barrel and traded as high as $61.27. US crude, meanwhile, added 41 cents to $51.97. Despite today's rise, Brent has slumped 30% from a 4-year high above $86 a barrel in early October, pressured by concerns that supply will exceed demand in 2019 as economic growth slows.
With P5+1 countries composed of 5 permanent members of Security.
And on to the Colombo stock market. The all-share price index closed in positive territory today, increased by 0.16% at 5,981.16, with turnover just above 409 million rupees. Total foreign sales accounted for about 63.9% of turnover today. And the Sri Lankan rupee hit yet another record low against the US dollar today and fell to 182 rupees and 27 cents at a fresh low for the 6th straight session. According to data, the rupee has fallen over 17% so far this year and over 4% at the end of October. Here's a look at how the Sri Lankan rupee traded against other major currencies during the day.
premier news channel. Other Derana 24/7.
On to your news overseas. Indonesian investigators probing the crash of the Lion Air aircraft last month, killing over 180 people, say that the Boeing 737 MAX plane was not airworthy and should not have flown. A preliminary report found that technical problems had been reported on previous flights.
Indonesian investigators say the Lion Air plane that crashed last month, killing 189 people, was not airworthy and should have been grounded. The Boeing 737 MAX plane crashed into the Java Sea shortly after departing Jakarta on the 29th of October. A preliminary report has found technical problems had been reported on previous flights. The 737 MAX is a new version of Boeing's original 737 and has become its fastest-selling plane. The preliminary reports detail what is known by authorities about the short time the plane was in the air, but investigators said it does not give a definitive cause for the accident. The findings by the National Transport Safety Committee suggest that Lion Air put the plane back into service despite it having had problems on earlier flights. Its previous flight was from Denpasar in Bali to Jakarta. Aviation head at the National Transport Safety Commission told reporters that during the flight, the plane was experiencing a technical problem, but the pilot decided to continue. The report outlines several maintenance procedures that were carried out in response to those problems. It also indicates that pilots struggled with the aircraft's anti-stall automated system, a new feature in the 737 MAX family.
US President Donald Trump says he may cancel a meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin following a maritime clash between Russia and Ukraine. The 3 Ukrainian naval vessels were seized by Russia off the coast of Russia-annexed Crimea on Sunday. Russia, meanwhile, have released footage of captured Ukrainian sailors recounting their actions before the incident.
Russian Federal Security Service have released footage showing captured Ukrainian sailors recounting their actions leading up to the standoff in the Kerch Strait on Sunday. Released to Russian media yesterday, video footage shows 3 captives, each from one of the 3 captured vessels, speaking at different locations. The 3 Ukrainian naval vessels seized by Russia off the coast of Russia-annexed Crimea on Sunday are being held at the Black Sea Peninsula's Port Kerch. We entered territorial waters of the Russian Federation, where the Russian Coast Guard warned us that we are violating Russian law. We were repeatedly told to leave the territorial waters of the Russian Federation. While coming to a stop by anchor, the Coast Guard warned us again that we must leave the territorial waters of the Russian Federation to sail out of the 12-mile zone and await further decisions regarding our crossing of the Kerch Strait. A Crimean judge, meanwhile, ordered equal pre-trial detentions of 1 month and 28 days for 12 of the 24 Ukrainian sailors captured by Russia. In the meantime, US President Donald Trump says he may cancel a meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin following the maritime clash between Russia and Ukraine. State Department spokeswoman Heather Nauert, meanwhile, expressed concern over sanctions already imposed on Russia not being fully imposed.
Many governments have imposed sanctions on Russia for its actions in Crimea, in Ukraine. Not all of those sanctions, as I have been told, have been fully enforced. So that is one thing that we can look for European countries to do more when we talk about doing more.
You are watching Sri Lanka's #1 news channel, Other Derana 24/7.
On to your weather forecast for the next 24 hours now. Temperatures will vary between 20 to 29 degrees Celsius, with the highest temperature expected in the Puntland district. We can expect showers and thunder showers in all districts of the country tomorrow as well. However, provinces of the eastern, northern, north central and Uva, as well as Matale and Hambantota districts, are set to receive heavy rainfall throughout the day. Coastline extending from Colombo to Kankasanture via Mana and Puntland can also see fairly rough wind speeds of up to 50 kilometers per hour. Here's a look at your weather forecast city by city for the next 24 hours. And that's it from First at 9 for tonight. But as usual, before we go, we'd like to leave you with some visuals. We take you to the Kottava Forest. Located in the northeast of Galle, the forest is only about 37 acres in extent. You can observe about 70 species of birds, including 12 endemics, and it is also a good place to see some Sri Lankan butterflies. Hope you enjoy these visuals. Have a pleasant evening. Good night.
Bringing you the news and information 24 hours a day. This is Sri Lanka's premier news channel, Other Derana 24/7.